The world holds its breath, wondering whether or not President Donald Trump is prepared to pull the trigger on a high-stakes military incursion in Iran. Now, Tehran has warned neighboring countries hosting U.S. troops that it would retaliate against American bases if Washington carries out threats to intervene in protests in Iran. Arab leaders and Israel caution Washington against any military intervention at the moment. Our next story brings you the latest from the escalating situation.
President Donald Trump is weighing whether to unleash U.S. military might on Iran in response to a brutal crackdown on nationwide protests. Top advisors have been summoned to map strike options, from cyber attacks to targeted military strikes, as Washington grapples with how and where to act and why. Trump has repeatedly warned Tehran, vowing very strong action if the killing of protesters continues. The president, who just weeks ago authorized bold action in Venezuela, now faces arguably the toughest decision of his tenure: confront a deeply entrenched regime or hold back to avoid full-scale conflict.
I haven't heard about the hanging. If they hang him, you're going to see some things that I don't know what where you come from and what your thought process is, but you'll perhaps be very happy.
What do you mean by that?
We will take very strong action. If they do such a thing, we will take very strong action.
Experts caution that Iran is no Venezuela. Iran commands a powerful military machine, entrenched ballistic missile systems, hardened Revolutionary Guard units, and an arsenal that has survived years of sanctions and covert strikes. Any attack on Iranian soil would almost certainly trigger immediate retaliation against U.S. forces and its regional partners.
Iran also still has an enormous missile program, so it could retaliate and has threatened to retaliate against U.S. assets in the region as well as against Israel. So this is not going to be a slam dunk. This is a country with 92 million people with military capabilities, but they can't control their skies. What happened in the 12-day war was Israel and then the United States were able to bomb with impunity inside of Iran.
Inside the Trump administration, the debate is raw. Some advisors argue that unlimited air or cyber strikes could disrupt Iran's military infrastructure and signal U.S. resolve. Others warn that without overwhelming force and clear objectives, such actions could spiral into a broader, long-lasting war. Israeli and Arab officials have privately pushed U.S. to hold off on Iran strikes.
We know that any escalation of the sort that you described would have catastrophic results in the region and beyond, and therefore we want to avoid that as much as possible. The talks continue, our calls continue.
Tehran, for its part, has answered the rhetoric with defiance. Iranian officials say they are ready for war, but open to dialogue. A dual message that underscores the danger of miscalculation. Whatever path Trump chooses, the world is watching and waiting. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
For more on this, we are now being joined by David Patrick Arakos, Iran analyst, author of War in 140 Characters and Nuclear Iran. He is a writer and journalist. David, thank you so much for joining us on WION. Do you anticipate a military strike from the Trump administration? And if yes, then what could be the targets?
Well, that's a very good question. So, first of all, do I anticipate one? Look, Trump has actually been very clear now. Now, Donald Trump says a lot of things that he doesn't do, but he tweeted or posted on his Truth Social, help is on its way. There really is no room for ambiguity there. And Donald Trump is a man who lies a lot, who says a lot of things that aren't true, but he's also a man that cares more than anything about his face, about his image, about his reputation. So given just how clear he has been, given that he has said again now, beyond that statement that I just quoted, that if they execute, there's going to be problems. They're going to execute Arfan Sultani. I'm pretty sure about that. So I feel he has to carry it out. In terms of what can they strike, another good question. Look, we know, and as was mentioned by the guest in the interview in that recording that just played, we know that the West, Israel, and certainly the United States now has mastery of the Iranian skies. Those Russian air defense systems that we heard so much about for so many years, that incidentally, by the way, Nicolas Maduro was also relying on, have proved to be a mirage, a chimera. So we know that they have ability almost at will to strike Iran. The question is, what are the targets? You're going to go, we know where the IRGC bases are. The Americans know, everybody knows. We know where the regime facilities are. Fordo is still operating, or if not operating, certainly not completely destroyed. So there's a variety of targets they can strike. They need to strike targets that are obviously far from civilians, and that's a big problem or an issue now when there are millions in the streets. So this is not an easy undertaking, but I would say for the sake of his own credibility, and more to the point, for the sake of those people being massacred on the streets right now, Donald Trump should act.
Yeah, those are very valid points. I guess the question many are asking is, why are there no aircraft carriers in the region as of now, as we speak? Following that, how serious is the Iranian warning of a strong retaliation if it comes under attack?
Again, two good questions, two good points. So from what I gather, I think they sent aircraft carriers closer to Venezuela. This is an issue. However, let's not forget that the Americans don't necessarily need to launch from aircraft carriers. If memory serves, and I think it does, they launched some of the strikes against the nuclear facilities from Missouri. This is the United States we're talking about. Their military abilities are unparalleled. Now, we talk about the regime, and this is the big thing in all of this, right? I think people are getting slightly carried away. There's something we have to understand. When you assess any revolution, one of the key things is the regime united? Are cracks beginning to appear? So far, we have not seen the type of mass defections from any of the security apparatus that you would expect to see. If it will, can we believe Iran? Yes, I think we can. The Iranians are also, are into talking tough but not delivering. After, Qasem Soleimani was droned by the Americans, they promised huge retaliation. In the end, they did a face-saving strike on a US facility that didn't hurt anyone, or I think maybe it wounded one person. But look, if they believe this is existential now, if they believe they could be about to fall, I don't think there's anything that would stop them or they wouldn't stoop to. We know they're brutal, and right now, if they feel that it's existential, they have nothing to lose.
Okay, Mr. David Patrick Arakos, thank you so much for joining us on WION. Of course, we're watching these developments very closely. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.